Hello, I'm Jeremy Burbage, and I sell books under the title Northern Bee Books. It's very nice to be here at the show, and it's now my 47th year that I've sold beekeeping books. Not, however, very successfully, because beekeepers either can't read when they take up the craft, or the exposure to honey and propolis mean that they lose the skill. But a certain number of them buy from me, and it's quite an interesting little hobby I have.
Well, I'm John Chappell, and I've kept bees in London for about 35 years. And I think for 34 of them, I've known Jeremy, and I do buy books for Jeremy. As my wife said, what do you want another book for? Because I say, to read. And she said, well, why don't you be like every other beekeeper and look it on the internet? And I've learned the internet, there's so much rubbish out there that unless you've got a good background knowledge about beekeeping, don't touch the internet, because you can't decide what is good and bad. Only experience will tell you what is good and bad, and you'll only get that from good books that you can read. Is that about right, Jeremy?
It is, and of course there are a lot of mediocre books around. There are certain classics.
Yes.
But generally, books repeat the perceived wisdom. And so often it's better to go back to the original older books. The older books have such a wealth of knowledge. Nowadays, people require pictures and large type, so they don't have to read a lot. And actually, the world of beekeeping is so enriched about the background, the numbers of books. I think there are more books in the English language on bees as any other subject. And
yeah, I think they're second to the Bible, I've read somewhere.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And it's it's interesting, book selling. We not only do we sell at shows, but we sell in America and in Australia. And perhaps this is not the right time to say this to all our Australian visitors, but I say that we have the widest range of English language bee books in the world. We bring a lot of them to the Honey Show. And I say the Americans visit us, but I'm pretty confident of this claim because very few Australians read. And perhaps the Australians would be cross about this, but they're beginning to read. We're beginning to sell more books there.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's basically comes from people like John who have this immense knowledge, and they put it into a book, and it transfers over the generations. You know,
We were lucky here at the Honey Show. We had an hour and a half of old films that dated back to some pre-war, some just after. And the skill and the knowledge of those old people, we know better today. In fact, we're worse today, because the old people didn't wear all gloves, big boiler suits, or like coats of armour. They just handled the bees with respect. There wasn't this bang, wham, thump business that we've got today. The smokers they used, a very gentle smoke. They didn't set them alight like some beekeepers do today. And all that knowledge is in the old books of how to handle bees. And I'm lucky they didn't have the diseases we've got today. But I'm sure they would have tackled the problem completely different to the way we do. We seem to solve all our problems by what chemicals can we throw in to solve the problem, rather than how can we manage our bees better so that they can cope with the problems, because the bees will cope. We've got a lot of nasty things happening in this country, but given time, the bees will master them. They've been here for 40 million years. They know how to survive. We've only been, 150,000 years. So the bees have the knowledge and the skills to do it. It takes time, but their collective brain, 50,000 units working on something will do it well.
But you see, John, what you're saying is so true, because, for instance, with Varroa, when it first came, the only response was chemical. And now there is a growing understanding
Yes.
that chemical-free beekeeping, you can overcome Varroa.
Yes.
And
Okay.
you're so right about the bees solving everything. And
Good husbandry solves most of the problems. And not to be greedy. You know, as I've got older, I obviously started off and I was glad to have a lot of honey. Now I find honey a pest. I don't really want it. I want to play and enjoy my beekeeping, not worry about can I make some more money by having more honey to sell. As you get older, money disappears. You know, you want pleasures in life. Being able, like what Jeremy will show you in a minute, to be able to look at pretty pictures about bees.
You see, what you're saying about control and whatever, I was reading an article by Leslie Bailey, who has since died, and he gave a talk to the Central Association in 2000. And his conclusions were that a lot of the diseases and problems of present beekeeping was that beekeepers took all their honey,
yes,
fed with sugar, which was much cheaper, but it was stronger for the bees. And this created many of the problems. And he said, if you keep your honey on the hive, you'll reduce the incident of virus.
I totally agree. And that's knowledge that's come from the past.
Yeah.
It's in the old books, but you've got to read the old books.
Yeah.
As Jeremy said, modern books are nearly all colour pictures, and the amount of reading you do is very limited. You know, that they solve a problem in a 2-line sentence, whereas really you want to read all about whatever the problem is and find out how to solve it. And it's old books that do it, and new books, but of the classic books that you need to know. Now, my favourite book is Ted Hooper. He died, I don't know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Can you remember?
We started publishing his book, and when it was when we bought it, it was slightly out of date because it had been written before the onset of Varroa. And I went to a leading beekeeper who had been a student of Ted's and said, will you update it? And she said yes, and we agreed everything. And then I went to Ted and I said, I'd like to update it. Are you? I said, yes. Only Ted, he said, don't change any of the writing. I said, oh no. I said, it's just the area about disease. Oh, he said, I said, I think I might be able to approach so-and-so, having already approached this person. Yeah. I told him who it was. Oh no, that'll be all right, he said. So we've kept it in print. You know, Hooper is a very, very good book.
Well, I still use it as my Bible, and I'm not ashamed to say, even though I've kept bees for a long time, and lots of bees, to look back on old books to get advice and how did they solve this problem? How do they do things? And usually they've got the answer because they've done it all before. They've had years and years of experience, and nothing is better than experience. You can have all the degrees you want, you can pass all these wonderful exams, but you can't beat experience. And you only get that by time and effort. And you've got to do the effort, not only working with the bees, but researching your bees and understanding them and talking to people who know what they're talking about. As Jeremy says, and I'm not knocking him, he's a businessman. A lot of the books there are purely almost a comic form of beekeeping. Sorry, Jeremy.
Let's not talk about books. Let's talk about the show.
Oh, well, yes.
You know, because the National Honey Show is undoubtedly the leading honey show in the world.
Exactly.
There is nothing like it. It's the Wimbledon of honey shows.
Yes.
And John goes back a little way. And how many years was it?
20 odd years I've been involved with the show.
So he's a newcomer. But I've been there since Caxton Hall, and it's changed hugely. It's partly due to work of somebody like John was the person who brought it to Sandown Park, but it's the fruition of the craft every year. It's the best of everything, and any beekeeper, serious beekeeper, who doesn't go to the National Honey Show, they are missing such an opportunity.
Yes, totally agree.
Yeah, it's and it's got an amazing team of workers, none of whom are paid. There's an executive committee, and they set the thing, and then they have the judges and the judges' assistants and the stewards, and I stand in awe of the organisation here.
Yes.
You know,
and like this year, the exhibits are up by another 300, or exhibitors by 300.
That's it.
And the show's getting larger and larger.
Yeah, yeah.
And it keeps going on this way. I don't know where we're going to end up.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's the next biggest hall we can hire?
And I expect you and I will have passed on before that happens.
No. Us old, we'll keep going.
You think so?
Well, I'm not going to give up easy. I've got a lot of problems, health problems, but I'm going to fight on to the end.
Right, right. And I have.
If I have to pick where I'm going to die, I want to die working my bees. I would think that I'd be in heaven, because I am in heaven when I'm with my bees.
Yeah.
It's another world. I can once I get involved with them, I can forget everything that's outside them, and totally absorbed.
Of course, you were the founder, weren't you, of the London Beekeepers Association?
I wasn't the founder. I was.
You were very early.
I rescued it from the
very early on, and you know what you've done for London beekeepers is something that should be written in stone, because you've done so well. You've done.
Well, I've done my bit, but it's been teamwork. Everything is teamwork. It's not individual. It's all teamwork. It's like Val over there. I know what's said about Val behind the back doors, but I think she does an absolutely wonderful job.
Yeah.
I do, and it's not bullshit. Excuse the language, but it is true. There's lots of people that no one sees that work away tirelessly for a massive amount of money, i.e., nothing, and do a wonderful job. You can't replace it.
No.
People say we've got to get professionals in to organise, or a professional press officer and all that. Yeah, you get them in, but they won't do half as good job as the amateur who's devoted to doing it right.
In a way, I would agree with you. I mean, people said to me the other day, or today, they said, you do so much. And I say, well, actually, I do very little. I talk to people, but I'm supported by a team of people. I couldn't do what I do and produce 10 books a year and 2 magazines, and without the people who've supported, good designers, good salesmen, whatever.
It's teamwork, just like the bees. It's a unit that works well together.
That's it. As
long as you think about that and keep it going, it will go on. This show will go on forever, providing the core people with the same feelings and instincts are here. Whether they come from any part of the world, it will go. It will just grow.
You see,
this technology we got here, I don't know, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, we'd never had all this. We're lucky if someone to come around with a 35mm camera and click every now and again.
In fact, if you're going back 20 or 30 years ago, on the executive, there was a man called Bill Files. And I think whether we were faced with problems, financial problems or something or other. And Bill broke into the conversation and said, he said, and he was an East Londoner. I can't get his accent right, but he said, what Harry said is cut off their legs. And he used to, or Henry, what Henry said, he said, and he used to work for Ford in Dagenham. And so he was talking about you cut down the numbers to make it efficient, and the show is very good. So anyway, it's been nice chatting. I don't know whether we've chatted enough about the show. And
I don't know. We've done our best again.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hope you enjoy that little chat, and we'll be back later.